Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fuck, Marry, Kill, the reproductive justice podcast where we fuck the unfuckable, marry the unmarryable, and kill the unkillable. Today, we are talking about youth abortion with Irma Garcia from Jane's Due Process, an organization in Texas that helps young people navigate parental involvement laws so they can confidentially access abortion and birth control. Welcome, Irma.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. So, we start every episode with a game of Fuck, Marry, Kill that is relevant to the topic at hand. So, have you played Fuck, Marry, Kill before?
Yes, but it has been a long time.
Well, get ready to welcome it back to your life because we are playing Fuck, Marry, Kill with youth things. So, Irma, Fuck, Marry, Kill, crop tops, TikTok, and your favorite teen drama. So I'm thinking like Riverdale, Gossip Girl, whatever it is for you.
Oh, man. Okay, so Mary Kill for crop tops, TikTok, and teen show. Ooh. Okay, so I would absolutely marry crop tops because I'm a hot girl at heart. I would I would actually probably fuck TikTok because I do enjoy um just having videos that are suited for short attention spans. I am that person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay with me. Then I would kill, oh, that is such a hard one. Let's do Euphoria because it was the last teen show I watched that put me through the ringer emotionally. So you know what? We don't have to go through that again.
I was gonna say Euphoria is a good teen drama to kill because it really is like a painful experience in a great way. It's a
Right.
wonderful show, but wow, is it painful? So that's a good one to kill.
Exactly.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I'm glad you got to reconnect with the game Fuck, Marry, Kill. So before we get started, what I kind of want to talk to you about is what are we even talking about when we say youth abortion? So like who is included in the youth category? Are we talking under 18? Do 20 somethings year olds count? Like what is that? What does youth abortion mean to you?
Youth abortion to me means just accessing abortion care for folks who are 18 and aren't able to obtain parental consent. We use the term young person at JDP mainly because we believe that young people have the autonomy to make these decisions on their own and deserve to be trusted to make these decisions without any type of interference, and that includes one's parents, because there are unfortunately situations where young people are not able to rely on consent from their caregivers in their life, especially if they are in situations that are probably very conservative due to religion, due to cultural factors, or anything else in that realm. But youth abortion is very near and dear to my heart because I believe that everyone should have access to abortion care, regardless of age, regardless of zip code, regardless of race and ethnicity, and any other socioeconomic factors that can affect someone being able to access simple health care.
Wonderful. Thank you for that context. So, can you give us a little bit of a rundown about the state of youth abortion in this country and how it's changed since Roe v. Wade was overturned?
Yeah, so the state of abortion for young people in the country varies, also depending on the several socioeconomic factors that I just mentioned. And that includes the zip code they live in. So, specifically, some states have implemented laws restricting abortion access, such as mandatory waiting periods and or parental notifications consent. laws. Some states require parental notification, and some states require parental consent. The difference between those two are that some clinics will only be required to maybe send a letter to the young person's house to fulfill the notifying part of the law. And then the consent requirement means that an actual signature is required from the parent or caregiver in that person's life. And not as easy as just someone signing a piece of paper. That requirement also means that they have to prove that they are that young person's real parent or caregiver in their life, with a birth certificate, with an ID, and they have to physically be at the clinic. So there are so many requirements that ultimately become barriers for people under 18 who live in states that have these laws still enacted. And while many things have changed since Roe v. Wade was overturned, the restrictions can still disproportionately affect young people, especially those who originally lived in states that already had those types of laws. So after the fall of Roe v. Wade, many states obviously now have total abortion bans or are now very extremely restrictive to the point that now everyone has to travel out of state, and that includes young people. And the question now begs, what are the young people who cannot get parental consent to get an abortion? What will they do to travel out of state?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. Like, we talk about adult abortion all the time and how many barriers there are just to be an adult person living in a rural area, a black and brown person, a low income person, a trans person. There are so many barriers to adults. And so just adding that extra layer of being a youth is a really scary thing. I'm curious
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know what the like largest challenge that you have run into with youth experience around getting an abortion has been.
Mm. So, oh man, that's a difficult question
Hmm.
because it feels like it's all a challenge.
Right.
um, Before the fall of Roe v. Wade, the big challenge was getting the judge in their county to approve um, the judicial bypass for them to have an abortion. So it felt like the decision for abortion care was in the hands of literally the government. And if this person said yes, great. But if this person said no, we are going to have to go through an entire legal appeal process to change that person's mind, or like have to go to um, the appeals court to have them overrule what the judge said, um, or have or if the young person does not want to wait that long, they could also go out of state. So people have been traveling out of state even before the fall of Roe v. Wade. It just obviously didn't happen as widely as it is now. But I would say that now it's more about making sure that when young people are traveling, that they are safe and that they feel like they can basically do what they're doing, because I'm not there to like physically to hold their hand through it all. Like I am booking what I need to book for this person to get their abortion, and send the funding to the clinic and whatnot. But ultimately the young person is doing it all on their own physically. So the challenges that arise are like, okay, I think I missed my flight. What do I do now? So filling in those blanks, or like the hotel people are telling me I can't check in. Let me figure out what they got going on. Or I got into an argument with the person that came with me and they left me. What do I do now? So I have to, like fill in all of those gaps virtually almost.
Mm.
And that in and of itself is traumatic for the young person because they are the ones physically there going through all of that. And if I could change it all where, like, you can get an abortion on demand, I would, because no one deserves to go through such a traumatic process, um like young people are going through whenever they have to go through this by themselves. And granted, adults have to sometimes also have to get an abortion on their own, but there is something to say about just being a little older and being just on this earth a little more, a little longer, and just knowing some things extra, as in like how to navigate an airport, how to check into a hotel. And while not every single adult has done that, there's something to say about just wisdom coming with age as well. So yeah, I would say all of that also. I can talk all day about challenges because we have gone through so many things. There's also been situations when we have to help folks who are on the border, and are in immigration detention centers, and they want an abortion too and deserve one. And so how to get them out of that detention center, to get their abortion as well. So yeah, we can be here all day.
Yeah, and it's really something to hearing you talk about just the unique challenges for teenagers. I'm just thinking about myself as a teenager, and you're so right that we can simultaneously acknowledge teenagers as full people who have the right to make decisions about their bodies, while also acknowledging that it is a very vulnerable age where you haven't had a lot of the experiences that might be necessary to allow you to go through that process a little smoother than if you're somebody who has
Hmm.
experienced those things before. And so I feel like that's a nice balance to keep, that like teenagers deserve autonomy and also they are not adults and they have unique challenges from like a mental perspective, from an emotional perspective. And I know that when I was a teenager, I mean, my mom wouldn't have let me sleep over at somebody's house 2 nights in a row, let alone go across state lines. Like, I would be lying out my ass if I had to get an abortion somewhere else. And so, like, that itself is such an emotional experience to go through that with a family member.
Exactly. And just like you, I think about what would my experience have been like if I was in that situation. And I don't think that I would have been able to get an abortion at all because I I I lived in a highly surveilled household. My mom read our text messages, like she was always making sure that we were where we were supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could not run a lie through through that woman. Like she could. And also I don't think I was a great liar. So like I don't think I like did myself any justice, but it was like just thinking back, I'm like I would not have been able to do this. So the fact that there have been so many young people, that Jane's Due Process has helped in the 20 something years that it has existed, and in the 5 years that I've been with this organization, and I've helped over 2,000 young people get an abortion. I'm like, those 2,000 teens were, are, and were way more braver than I ever was.
Yeah, that's amazing to be able to know that you have supported that many teenagers through a really vulnerable point in their life. You deserve all the kudos, all of the appreciation for that, because yeah, my mom used to read my texts too. And I think back to it where I'm like, you know what? Because I didn't know that she was reading them at the time. I kind of found out a few years later. And I'm like, my mom must have read so many like weird sexts that I sent to my high school boyfriend. Like, I'm like, and she was just looking me in the eye during breakfast the next day. Like, that's crazy to me. Um,
Oh man. I also was queer, so
mhm.
there were times that I didn't realize that she was also, I think like there were times that like she was just too busy to keep up with everyone's text messages, because she had
Yeah,
3 kids at that time, to keep up with everyone's text messages. And so I thought in my head that I could like,
go under the
outsmart her,
radar.
and
Yeah.
I would, yeah, and I would like rename people in my phone so that she thought it was boys, and then she's like, why are you talking to this boy that way? And in my head I'm like, oh, that's actually a girl. Or like, why are you talking to this girl that way? Oh man.
The layers of hiding things from your parents.
Exactly. So yeah, this all of the young people right now that are going through the process of getting an abortion, listen, the real MVPs.
Seriously, seriously. Well, so you talked a little bit about your experience at Jane's Due Process and all of the support that you've been able to give to young people. Can you give just an overview of what Jane's Due Process does, what resources they have available to young people?
Yes. So Jane's Due Process covers the abortion funding 100% for any of their clients, and all of our clients are under 18. So we work with clinics all main, through we work with clinics in many states, and they choose where they want to go to, and we cover that funding for that. And then the practical support layer of if they want a flight or if they want a reimbursement for gas, we work on that. If they need a hotel, we'll cover that. If they need funding for food, we'll give them a stipend. If they need funding for transportation while they are at the in the state that helps them get an abortion, that they are at to help them get an abortion, we work with different organizations that help give them rides, basically, or also gives them a gift card. And then it hasn't happened often because our clients are young and most of them do not have children. It doesn't happen often, but there have been some folks that have children and needed childcare. So we've worked with people who can help them with childcare or cover childcare for them through a stipend. And then apart from the abortion practical support piece, we also have a hotline that's 24/7, that's available 24/7, and it's 100% volunteer driven. And the volunteers are trained on all of the reproductive rights of minors and non coercive options of counseling. And we have English speakers, Spanish speakers. Um, and we also have a program where people can call our hotline to request a repro kit that has two Plan Bs, two pregnancy tests, condoms, occasionally lube and dental dams, and info zines on how to take the pregnancy test, Plan Bs, all of that. Um, and then we also have a youth advocacy program where it basically our clients can enter this leadership program after they get their abortion, and they receive a stipend for 2 years to be involved in the advocacy program with us. And they are trained to speak at rallies, write articles. They also get assistance with their resumes and college applications, whatever they need, essentially. Like, we're trying to set them up for success basically after their abortion. um, so yeah, we are trying to cover many of the reproductive justice pillars where we're not just helping them get their abortion, but also helping them thrive afterwards as much as we can, right? We can't do everything, but yeah, for the most part.
That's amazing. I was really just thinking about, yeah, like the abortion is one thing, but then they have to go be people again. And what does that look like? The work that y'all are doing is amazing. And did I make up that you're a small team?
Yeah, we are, I believe, under 15 people.
Wow, you're doing all that with under 15 people.
Yeah. Oh, I literally just like, I don't know how I could have missed this. We also have a sex ed program where we basically host workshops where folks and the young people that we work with can come and learn about whatever it is they need in terms of sex ed. So we are doing a lot. We're trying to cover many bases.
Yeah, you really are. I mean, the holistic experience of abortion, it's not just this one off event. Like, you have sex. That's what leads to getting pregnant. That's what leads to abortion. And then after that, you go back to being a young person in the world. And so being able to have that holistic view of people, I think, is really, really powerful.
Exactly. And that couldn't have happened without the fierce advocates at Sister Song that, came up with the reproductive justice framework. And so we're trying our hardest to live by that.
Thank you. Well, how do you find these young people? Like, how do they find you? How do they reach out to you? And then if the young, I'm assuming that you don't have, do you fund everybody that needs the money? And if you can't, what is the process like for that? I'm so curious. These are questions that are way off my original written script, but this is fascinating work.
No, yeah. We do. We fund everybody
Wow.
100%. And many of our clients always start off the call with me like, is this a scam?
Right. Too good to be
Because
true.
exactly, like, what do you mean you can give me everything that I need at the moment? So yes, we do. I also think that we are in a very privileged position to have existed for such a long time that we are now able to do that. But that was not the case when the organization was originally founded. And even like halfway in, we were not able to fully fund everything. We were very much relying on other assistance programs. And we still work with NAF and other funds for assistance, especially when we're helping folks in other states because we can't do it all by ourselves. We have to connect with other abortion funds to overlap assistance in certain areas. But yeah, for the most part, we try our best to fund everything. I think lately, after the fall of Roe v. Wade, we have not been receiving as many intakes as we used to. That is also another factor. And I think that's just kind of like a testament to the times that a lot of people cannot actually travel out of state for an abortion. And it's very heartbreaking that they get sentenced to parenthood. And there's those times that truly there is nothing anyone can do other than just be there for them with whatever assistance they need afterwards once they realize that they cannot get an abortion because they can't travel or step away from their household or their family or their relationship or anything like that. Um, so that has maybe also helped in being able to fund everybody because we're not getting as many clients as we used to.
Right. That is really heartbreaking. And hearing you say sentence to pregnancy, that is a powerful, powerful way to talk about it because that really is what's happening.
Exactly. There is no other way I can think about it at this
Hmm.
point.
So I know the Change Due process is based out of Texas, but are you a national organization? And for folks who might want to get involved with the Hotline Volunteer Program, is that a national kind of process?
Yes. So we are able to help people in other states get connected with whoever they need to in their state for a judicial bypass or abortion funding or anything like that. Right now, we are not a national organization, but we are in the works of talking about possibly becoming national in a way where we can help young people in other states as well. And especially in the states where an organization doesn't exist that's dedicated to young people. And that way, it also alleviates the burden from other abortion funds that can possibly focus on folks who are 18 and over. Um, so maybe look out for that. But yeah, we still try our best to help everyone that calls our hotline, even if they live in, I don't know, Maine or even you. We do get a lot of folks um, from other referrals in other states. So we do work with other organizations in that way. And then for the hotline, people can be anywhere for that. We've definitely have had people internationally volunteer, mainly I think because they were remote and they were able to just travel all over the world, and they volunteered on our hotline. So yeah, you can be anywhere.
Wow, that is my dream life, to just travel around the world and volunteer on a youth abortion hotline. Like, that's sexy.
Right. Yes, it is.
So you've mentioned judicial bypass a few times. Can you give just the quickest 101 how you would talk to somebody who's never heard those words before? What is judicial bypass?
Yeah. So a judicial bypass is essentially a legal process in which a minor who is wanting to get an abortion is unable to because they need parental consent. And because they aren't able to get that consent, they're petitioning a court for that consent slash authorization, if you want to call it that, to basically be able to get the procedure without their parents getting involved. Not every state has parental involvement laws, but there is there's two types, like I was talking earlier. There's the parental notification laws, and then there's parental consent laws. So if you are in a parental consent state, that is essentially when you would go in front of a judge, and explain your situation. There's essentially a rubric that you would have to check off, and essentially you have to provide um, quote unquote evidence that you are mature enough to make this decision. That's legitimately what the law says. You
That's
have to
crazy.
prove you are mature. You have to prove you are mature enough to make this decision, or you have to prove that you are in an abusive situation or dangerous situation, and that is why you cannot tell your parents. So essentially, most, if not all, young people are obviously trying to prove that they're mature enough to seek an abortion without parental consent. And so the judge then considers that person's quote unquote maturity and makes sure that they understand the procedure, and if it is in their best interest, then they grant the bypass. Um, so yeah, think of it the way that I've described it to people in the past is, think of, so they go to the consultation for the abortion, and they take all of the information that they learned and they study it, essentially, like if they're studying for a pop quiz or a test at school, and then they are verbally tested on the information that they learned at their consultation, and then that is essentially what grants them the bypass, if the judge is not also an asshole. Because that's definitely happened in the past, where the young person proved everything they needed to prove, and still the judge was like, but you know what, it is a blessing to be pregnant
Mm.
and have a child, so denied.
That is such a wild system that one judge gets to judge maturity of somebody, which is such a loose statement. Like, I had cereal for dinner 2 nights in a row. Like, I am not I'm not there. Like, I don't know what you need to prove that you are mature enough to decide what to do with your body, and also mature enough to not want to have a child rather than to have a child, which feels like something that requires a lot of maturity in and of itself also. So, and just one judge, just one guy up there deciding your fate. That is terrifying.
Exactly. Like, it is the literal depiction of the government having control of someone's body. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm always like, it's this one person um who gets to say if you can have an abortion or not. And that's, I don't know, that's traumatic.
That is really traumatic. That really is. And what is like, I feel like when you're in your teenage years too, you start to develop the way you see the world around you, the way you see adults, the way you see politicians. Like, who do you trust? Who do you not trust? Like, your worldview is getting shaped. And to have this kind of traumatic experience around your own reproduction at that age, I imagine can take a major toll on how you largely view your ability to trust adults and trust the world around you in a larger sense.
Exactly. Yes. And it with all of that context, it makes sense as to why they end up not trusting abortion funds or people that are here telling them we will help you, you
Right.
know?
Right. I had this really interesting conversation recently about youth abortion, but about youth sex ed, just kind of all of the things around sex and young people. And the person I was talking to was talking about how they believe that a fear of youth sexuality is what leads to all these negative impacts for young people, that adults are really terrified that young people are having sex. It really freaks us out. We do not like to talk about it. We don't like to think about it. And so because of that, like all of the impacts of young people having sex is so taboo and just makes us so uncomfortable. It's like we'd rather not deal with it than have to acknowledge that young people are full people with sexualities. I'm wondering what you think about that because I thought that was a really interesting conversation.
Oh man, I love this topic because one, it's what I do, it's what I am an expert on. So when people I actually was walking around the Lower East Side on Saturday, and we went into this bookstore, and saw a book that said The Secret Lives of Adolescents Having Sex or something like that.
Hmm,
And I was just like, when I saw it, I was like, see, if I read this book, they're gonna piss me off
for sure. For
because
sure.
I can already like feel and just imagine what kind of information they we're going to be writing and have me reading, talking about there's a secret world where minors are having sex, and they're going to probably describe it as orgies and whatnot. I don't know. It was going to be very like just a big way to piss me off. But anyway, human sexuality is something that we are obviously all born with, and young people having sex is essentially just a very common aspect of human behavior. It is just a part of regular humanity. It is a part of our lives. It is essentially what we are born with. And most young people, including ourselves, at least I know, including me, like we all felt our sexuality developing when we were young people, when we were teens. And so as teens mature physically and emotionally, it is normal to explore romantic and sexual relationships. It is a part of life. It is normal. And I think that folks don't want to believe that it is a natural part of development and that it is a part of becoming an adult. You have to navigate your identity, you have to navigate your desires, and you have to go and experience relationships in order to understand what you want later in life and what you like and what you don't like. Granted, there are people who end up with their high school sweethearts, but essentially they're still getting relationship education because who you were as a teenager is not who you're going to be when you're 35. So if anything, it is just another um, argument for young people to have access to comprehensive sex education and the resources to make informed decisions about their sexual health and their well-being. And what we are trying to do at JDP is just giving them that education as much as we can, because it's mainly just filling the gaps. It's not as in depth as we wish it would be, but it's education for them to understand consent, birth control, STIs, and what healthy relationships should look like. Um, and just to be able to foster open communication with the adults at JDP and give them the access and the information to healthcare services such as Title X clinics and other abortion funds. All of that is going to essentially be helpful for them to navigate whatever experiences they're going through romantically or sexually, safely and responsibly.
I love the way that you frame that in the way that youth sexuality and youth relationships aren't just something that shouldn't be taboo. There's something that's a net positive. Like they're a good thing for people. I feel like I see like the right-wing people being like, oh, afraid of youth sexuality, wanting it to not exist. And then even when I see more progressive parents or more progressive adults being like, youth sexuality is inevitable, and so what do we do about it? But there's something really beautiful about not just that it's inevitable, but that it's a good thing, that it inspires you to have healthier relationships in your future, and it allows you to experience the world and explore and see what you like, what you don't like. I mean, I am endlessly grateful to my high school boyfriend. He was not the one. Maybe he's listening. I was like, I simultaneously really hope that like this podcast takes off and goes viral and all of that. But also I want to be able to talk shit on it about people that I know. And that's probably not something I can have at the same time. But Tommy, my boy, you were good. You were good to me. And I feel like I got a lot out of that experience of figuring out what kind of relationships I want in the future. So it's really cool to hear you talk about it as not just a neutral thing or a thing that we as adults have to accept, but as something that we as adults should be encouraging in a way that is not weird.
Exactly. That's essentially literally it. It's trying to give people the education they need to have healthy relationships. And it's not just going to be romantic relationships, it's how to have better relationships with your friends, with your family, how to have boundaries at work, all of that. It's all a part of sex education. And if you get nothing else out of it, at least you just know that, condoms are going to help protect you from unwanted pregnancy. The end.
Right, right. So I'm curious because you talked about parental rights earlier, and I'm curious to know if the parents' rights movement has had an impact on your work. I know that I've mostly seen it in the context of trans students in school and parents being like, well, I have the right to call my child whatever it is, and the teacher should not be calling my child by their chosen name, should not be using the pronouns that I am not okay with because I have rights as a parent. Has the parents' rights movement kind of impacted your work? Is it something that you see regularly?
Yes, in a way, mainly because there are still quote unquote loopholes where just because for example, the Texas loves parent parental rights, I guess, if you want to call them that.
Mm.
They love just adding barriers to everything, but they're going to call it parents' rights. And if anything, it's Texas just loves control. It is a narcissistic state. So, the parental consent requirement was not always there, actually. I can't remember for the life of me because I have not talked about this in a hot minute, but I believe maybe 2010 or 2012 was when parental consent went to effect, but don't quote me on that. But essentially what I'm trying to say is that parental consent was not always a part of abortion access in Texas. And so it became a part of it because parents were not okay with their teens being able to get an abortions without them finding out. So that ended up becoming a thing. And so now we have all of this. Well, we used to have all of that. Now we don't have nothing. In terms of abortion access. And then now, what most recently occurred was that a parent was not okay with their children being able to access free birth control without parental consent at Title 10 clinics in Texas. So now young people cannot get free birth control without parental consent at Title 10 clinics, unlike any other state.
Wow.
Yes. So now that has become literally this year, I believe, a thing where because a parent argued that it goes against their religious beliefs that this shouldn't be allowed. Now all young people in Texas are not allowed to get abortion without parental consent at
I
Title 10 clinics.
I know that you were talking about potentially going national, but you have your hands full in Texas.
Oh man, it does. Yes, it does. But hopefully, we are growing as an
Yeah.
organization, so we are trying to get to a point where, we can handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really exciting to hear that y'all are growing and expanding because there's so much need for this. Well,
Yes, 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 yes.
Well, Irma, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and talking to me. This was a really amazing conversation. And if anyone would like to learn more about Jane's Due Process or potentially get involved as a hotline volunteer, you can go to janesdueprocess.org. And I just have one last question for you.
Yes.
What do you think people get wrong about teenagers and youth? What would you wish people knew about teenagers' inner world that you have gotten to see?
Ooh, that they are way more mature than what folks are painting them out to be, because the folks that I have helped, again, what I said earlier about I would not have been able to go through this process when I was younger, and to see the way they conduct themselves and how efficient, self-sufficient they can be. Granted, I wish this was not something they had to go through, that this process did not exist, that I truly am a believer that some lessons in life, that all lessons in life should be learned through love and not through traumatic experiences. And I just like am always in awe on how resilient and brave, and if you want to call it mature, yeah, that Texas teens are. I love Texans with all of my heart. I love Texas 100, like, just I am always talking about Texas and New York, but I love Texans teens even more.
That's awesome. And you're so right that like the maturity scale, what even is that? Like these are brave people. These are people who are doing something really courageous and challenging, and that should be seen in and of itself. And teenagers are so cool. I love them. I wish I knew more teenagers. I wish they could keep me young, tell me what the teens are talking about. I feel like I'm 25 now. I'm just aging out of being cool. So I need to find.
Oh no.
My younger sister's always like, you haven't heard of that? So I need to find some teens who are going to keep me young, keep me informed. So I really appreciate the chance to get to talk to you. And thank you so much for all of the amazing work that you're doing and for sharing this with us. It really means the world.